My name is Josh Serfass. I work for VRIFY AI. And I'm going to take you through a little bit about what our platform is doing to help exploration companies better look for targets and better assign risk to their exploration plans. We just heard a great panel about gold and silver and the need for it and how we're looking for it. What we're trying to do in the industry is really think differently about how we explore. You might hear this a lot from companies here. You might hear it a lot in the industry that finding minerals is hard. That's a no-brainer. This industry is full of data. It's full of risk. You're working across the globe. One thing that we hear a lot of is that the easiest stuff has been found, that we need to go to different places, harder places, go after deeper deposits. At VRIFY, we really disagree with that. We believe that using your existing information and using tools like machine learning and AI can decrease the time it takes to target and lower your risk for actually drilling. I'll give you an example of a project that I worked on that everyone thought had been completely picked over and that nothing was left on the project. So those of you that aren't familiar with the Abitibi, it's a very famous mining region in northern Quebec. This project is right on the outskirts of Val d'Or, which literally means the Valley of Gold. There was two mines here that started producing in the 1920s. One of them was actually founded by someone from the state of New York. These two assets were some of the highest grade gold producers in Quebec for about 80 years. And they operated about 500 meters from each other without ever sharing data or without ever consolidating the land package. And what you're seeing on the screen is actually the historic underground workings from these two mines. So the deeper one on the left side of the screen is the Sigma mine that actually extends down 2,000 meters. And then on the left side of the screen is the Lamaque mine, which extended down 1,000 meters. Both of these produced until the early 2000s, and then they shut down due to low gold price and depleting resource at depth. I worked for a company called Integra Gold, and in 2011, we actually acquired the old Lamaque asset. The Lamaque asset had at the time, everyone thought there was no more resource left, and we actually made a discovery only 500 meters from the Lamaque mine called the Triangle deposit. And this was an interesting technique for us to do because the Triangle deposit previously was covered by muskeg or swamp, and it was close to the southern claim boundary, so no one really wanted to go drill there. And there wasn't much data. Everyone had really focused around the old historic mines at Sigma and Lamaque. We decided to drill there in the winter when the swamp froze over and hit on one of our first drill holes. And so if you look down on this plan view, you can actually see the old workings just there to the northwest, and then the green Triangle deposit. We sold this asset in 2017 to Eldorado Gold. They are now producing about $800 million of gold from the project, about 200,000 ounces per year. What was really nice for them is that they made another discovery not long after we sold them the project. So they were actually going to run an adit from the Triangle deposit underneath the deposit to the old Sigma pit so that they could transport ore underground versus transporting it on. When they went to drive that adit, they discovered the Ormac zone, essentially between Triangle and Lamaque. So that's where we believe at VRIFY that the easy deposits are still out there, that we just need to leverage the data we have on our projects, think about it differently, process it more quickly. So we launched VRIFY AI a year ago. We now have 35 clients, and we just launched in March the first iterative platform that a client can log into and run algorithms on their own. And the real reason that we did this is that we don't use a lot of our data in mining well. On average, 99% of data is not used. It's collected, but it's not used. To give you some examples of that, a gold project might do multi-element assaying. So they might be assaying for nickel, lithium, cobalt, but they might be focused on things that you typically associate with gold, arsenic, silver. So it means a lot of this data is being stored, but not really reviewed. What we've decided at VRIFY AI is to transform how we look through that data. So we're using proprietary machine learning technique called vision transformers. So vision transformers is really simple to understand. If you were to think of ChatGPT, ChatGPT learns off of text. The more text it gets, the more it reads, the more it understands. Vision transformers does the same thing, but it's using images. So what we do as a company is we actually take all this data in from our clients, we anonymize it, we remove the georeferences, and we create 2D rasters. And they're very colorful. They don't look like anything to the human eye, but for the algorithm, it's looking for patterns that exist within that data set. And that data set is pretty easy to put a threshold on. So we don't want to limit it to one AI iteration. When you sign up for VRIFY AI, you're able to do as many iterations as you want. You can remove data sets. You can change thresholds. So if you're in a high grade gold zone, you can keep the high grade, maybe set it at 5 grams per ton, but maybe you want to do a regional scale and understand what's the potential elsewhere in my project that I haven't thought about. And so you can actually lower the threshold. You can also add multi-metals. So if you want to look for gold, copper, zinc, you can run those models at the same time. It's all cloud-based. We all work in environments that don't necessarily have the best Wi-Fi. So you can actually trigger these iterations on your iPad, let it run, and 25 minutes later, you can come back and take a look at it. This is what Dora looks like. You just log in. You can create these iterations. You can create targets. We assign a VRIFY prospectivity score to each target, which is 0 to 1. So what is the likelihood, the probability of hitting mineralization at any one of these targets? It's a geoscience-driven approach. A lot of people ask us about our background. I come from mining. Our CEO comes from mining. This isn't Silicon Valley trying to adjust and understand what we do. This is a large team. We have about 25 people on staff now on the geoscience team, from geologists to geophysicists to geochemists, that are taking in their data, interpreting it, getting it into our system so that the client can then use it to go out and target. So the question we always get at this point is, does it work? We launched, as I mentioned, a year ago. We now have 35 clients, and we're starting to see clients for the first time go out and test targets. The first client that tested a target was in Victoria, Australia, Southern Cross Gold. This is a pre-resource company, but has a lot of very high-grade drill intersects. They came in and drilled a target east of their ore shoot that they had been really focused on, called Apollo. And they hit in the first 3 drill holes that went into the target with very similar grades and mineralization that you would expect or that they get at Apollo. 2 weeks ago, Rua Gold put out some drilling. Rua Gold's a really interesting example of looking for a mine where there were mines previously. So they are in a prolific mining camp in New Zealand on the Southern Islands. They had a lot of historic data that we brought in. And what they really wanted us to do is help assign targets. Where should they start drilling? They had some preconceived notions, they had some thoughts, but they wanted to understand how did they line up with ours. There was one drill hole in the southern part of the property that they knew about. One of our targets really lit up using all the data that we brought into the algorithm. They decided to commit 6 drill holes in that area and hit on the first one. The third example is actually one that I'm very familiar with, and I think is also what's really interesting about the tool. Everyone thinks of AI and they want blind discovery. And it's not just about blind discovery, it's really about effective allocation of exploration dollars. So Cantera is a project in Newfoundland. It's a base metal project. It is actually a former mine. There's the map of Newfoundland. So this is their target area on the project that you can see there in red. Now, they're a unique example where they do have a deposit. You don't need a deposit, but this was their deposit. And you can see the VRIFY prospectivity score is those towers, and that blue and pink you see there. Essentially, the way to read this is the taller the tower, the brighter the color, the higher prospectivity, the higher probability of hitting resource in that area. So when we see this initially at VRIFY, we're very comfortable because we want to see a strong target where you have a lot of data. So that circle there is where their deposit is. So you would expect a strong target. What the company didn't expect was this lookalike target that was just south. So this target here is called the new target NU. There is only a few drill holes in that area. There's limited data, but the algorithm picked up something in the patterns that said you should look to explore here. And now Cantera is a smaller company with not a large exploration budget. And so what they did is they looked at the SHAP label. And so a SHAP label is one thing that we do to remove the black box of AI. So for every target, we provide the client a list of geological features that have contributed to that target. They'll be listed with a percentage next to it, so you know the percentage of each geological feature that's influencing that target. And it also allows you to kind of move some of those features in. So if you see over-influencing, you can remove it and then rerun the iteration. What was really interesting about this target is they saw IP was one of the big factors identifying it. And so what they've chosen to do before drilling it is to be smart with their exploration dollars, and they're doing a really tight IP survey over there so that we can then bring in that data, refine the target before they put a drill in the ground. So essentially just understanding the risk of the target and being smart with how they're spending their dollars. So I'm out of time. It was a quick 15 minutes, but my colleague Alex and I are back there. We can take you through Dora. We can take you through other test cases and examples. But really the goal here is to use AI to accelerate your discovery timeline, to be more efficient with your capital, and to also bring in new capital that's interested in the intersection of AI and minerals. So I'll leave it at that.